Chatty Bobby. Welcome to Wrasslin with Big E and the POT. Podcast tag champs of the whole world, slamming like a DDT. Got it like just like a figure four. Hulk Hogan, all they do is flex. Talking wrestling while they get the dough. Off the top like a superplex. Think they letting up? Hell no. Dusty Rose with the elbow. From the corner like a stinging splash. Straight to the face, I know you felt those. Hey, y'all crying out for help though. Rising up like the dead man. About to go upside your head like Stone Cold with the bedpan. Bottom line, if you want the facts, welcome to Wrestling's where you need to be. Chatty Bobby, this show improved like John Cena, you ain't seeing me. Bottom line, if you want the facts, welcome to Wrestling's where you need to be. Chatty Bobby, this show improved like John Cena, you ain't seeing me. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to Wrasslin. I'm the POT alongside my tag team partner Big E, aka them Wrestling Boys. And we're here to bring you another episode of premium wrestling content. What's up, brother?
That's right. What's up, brother?
Hey man, back for another one, bro.
Hey man, I'm tired. Today was opening day for the boys' baseball season, so I've been about 8 hours at the baseball park. My face sunburnt. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Hey, you know, I had a milestone tonight as well. Senior in high school, 18 years old. We went to the prom tonight. So
wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. See him get
That's
all clean,
big, man. That's big. Yeah, that's big.
That was absolutely.
So shout out to Noah out there having a ball. So yeah. Hey man, we're 10 episodes in. This is episode 11. So this is a milestone. Well, shout out to So
I don't know why you cheating this, man.
Oh, hey, I don't know, man. Look, don't do that. This is episode 11 plus a bonus episode. So this is 11.1. But but seriously though, we in it. We keep going. Shout out to all the subscribers, new subscribers, everybody listening. We appreciate y'all. Keep listening, Keep commenting, keep subscribing. Tell your friends about us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So let's keep going at it and keep going. But we here for another episode. We're going to be doing a little deep dive into our favorite managers today. But first, we're going to talk about a few things that happened this week in wrestling. Big thing was Monday was Rhea Ripley losing the title on TV to Io Sky. That was big. So
yeah.
I know we talked about it earlier in the week when we was just chit-chatting about wrestling and stuff, but you know, at first I was like, well, she must be injured, but she couldn't be injured too bad if she was out there, you know, putting the title on the line, unless it was something that is nagging. If it's one of those injuries that can't get no worse, but you need to get it taken care of pretty soon, you know, something that where she could have dropped the title or whatever. But I mean, it just seems like if it was a lingering thing that they could have waited until WrestleMania. So kind of definitely interested if it turns into a triple threat or, you know, like you had said. Yeah. So we'll just have to see once the news comes out with, you know, about her and everything. But that was crazy. LA Knight won the US title back on SmackDown. A lot of promos this week, you know, cutting promos about. You had Randy Orton cut his big promo, but he's got, you know, that dog back in him, that fight back in him, you know, and ready to go after Kevin Owens, and called out John Cena. So just setting the things up. We already got our main events pretty much. So they're setting everything else up for the undercards for WrestleMania. So just stay tuned. Just stay tuned because we right into it now. WrestleMania is I ain't gonna
6
say
weeks
how many
away,
weeks.
bro.
6 weeks away.
6
WrestleMania is
weeks
2 weeks
away.
away.
Right.
Right, we got about 6.
2.5.
Yeah, so we got 6 weeks. So,
6 weeks,
definitely looking
bro.
forward to that, man. Can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait.
A lot can happen in 6 weeks too. Just like to your point,
Absolutely.
mentioning Io Sky, Bianca Belair situation. I'm also very curious with the with Jade and Naomi and that whole dynamic. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, that,
we kind of put two and two together and thought that's what it was, and that's what it ended up being was Naomi attacked Jade. So,
right.
they Bianca and Naomi did their little segment on SmackDown, and it was a little rough to watch, because it was like you're watching wrestling, and back in the day, let's just be honest, back in the day, a lot of times when the girls would come out, we would take a break, fast forward, go do whatever. If you had it on TiVo or recorded it on your TV or whatever, and fast forward that. But these girls are putting on good matches. These women per se, these women are putting on good matches and stuff. But a lot of the crying, and they were crying because they was hurt. So it was just, it was a lot. It was a little rough to watch. Kind of cringy a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it's like it was like a league. There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in wrestling. But it was a little rough. But I know where they're going. So we'll see how all that works out.
Said says says the person that worships the biggest crier in the business.
Well, and and that might be the truest statement that's been on Welcome to Wrestling yet. I do worship the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. He is the biggest
Right.
crier
Right. I wasn't, and I definitely wasn't
on
talking about the
God's
big
green
show.
earth. Yeah,
I definitely
right,
wasn't talking about the big show.
right. But there's not that they didn't cry with their promo. They cry when at the Hall of Fames, and
Raw emotion.
I ain't gonna say that.
Yeah.
Nate's gonna cry at the drop of a hat.
Hey,
But
I
that's
feel
him.
Nate.
He's
I'm,
very
I'm a crier
emotional
too.
guy. That's what
I'm the
happens when
same
you're the
way.
greatest of all time.
I cry when I watch Rudy. So hey, I can
Hey,
relate.
it's the greatest thing these eyes have ever seen.
Right.
Rudy,
But
hey
nah,
man, when the assistant coach is walking up and down the sideline trying to get him in the game at the end of the movie, and then he
right,
finally gets in there, he gets that, bro. If you don't get a little tear
bro.
jerky, something's wrong with
It
you. And if you're a
it
football
it
player,
when they turn them jerseys in, that's when it
oh
started for me.
man, yeah,
When he was like, "You're
act
a
like it.
captain, act like it." He's
Oh,
like, "I
yeah,
can't
I
I
am,
am, coach."
coach. Yeah,
Yeah, that's when it started really. And they were all walking in, dropping their jerseys. I was like, "Oh man!"
yeah,
Especially being on a part of a team. You're like,
right. But that's how I tell you how what football is, and football is such family oriented when it comes to team,
right,
because of the grind that you put together, and like even going back to high school football, we take that stuff personal when people put themselves in a position to act like they played football, and they didn't, and then that stuff will they get under your skin, because you don't take credit for something that you wasn't out there struggling with us to do. And it's the same
what
thing.
what a what a Rose say? She wasn't with me when I was shooting in the
Shooting in
gym.
jail.
Hey, nah, that's real
So
though.
yeah,
I
but
know we got off track a little bit, but we basically still talk about Bianca and that whole scenario, that promo,
yeah,
and a little
yeah,
emotional. But hey, I kind of, you know, I kind of dug it a little bit. Yeah, I feel where you're coming from, but at the same time, it was they are women and
yeah,
they're emotional
absolutely.
creatures, and
Very,
so
very
I
much
get it.
so. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Like I said, I did too. I see where they're going, but it was a little tough to watch over here on this side. But we'll see where all that
Okay.
goes. keeping our eyes peeled, as far as all the new matches that are going to get set up. And Lex Luger going into the Hall of Fame.
Shout out. I dig it. I dig it. People say what they want to say about Lex Luger, and we both agree that he wasn't the best in-ring technician. Probably one of our least favorite horsemen. All of that, but he had a long run. Sting's buddy. Uh, he had his own lane. Multiple time world champion in WCW. Uh, you hear backstories
Grand
about when they
Slam
had the Lex
champion in
Expresses.
WCW.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
he never won the big one, WWF. And when they was pushing him for with the whole Lex Express thing, word on the street was that he kind of messed that up by talking too much,
Not wanting to be
allegedly.
around the fans and stuff like that. And he'll admit that stuff now. If you watch a lot of the newer stuff that he does as far as being
Yeah,
interviewed and stuff, like he loves being around the fans now. But
right,
back then he didn't. Back then he didn't even like the wrestling business. He was a football player. And
right,
let it be known. So I know a lot of the old school guys held that against him, and a lot of them do to this day. I was listening to Jim Cornette, who will be mentioning much later during the deep dive into our favorite managers. But he said a lot of guys did not like Lex, and he didn't like them either.
right.
Didn't want to be a part of wrestling business, but shout out to him for being a part of it and becoming a Hall of Famer. Like you say, not our favorite, but from the 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s, he stayed relevant.
Yeah, I think it deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a
Yeah.
lot of the other names that's on there, and I know there's a lot of wrestling purists that might say, well, they don't go by the WWE Hall of Fame, because it's kind of like their own little thing, but it's not like the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame or all. They have
Right.
multiple kind of wrestling Hall of Fames out there. I know, and
Cauliflower
I
Alley
guess
and
right, but it's not like it's highly publicized. So
right.
this is the one thing, the one Hall of Fame that we're able to witness an induction ceremony, and I'm sure a lot of the wrestlers you would think would really appreciate that and the honor to being a part of that, where they can dress up nice and invite their family, and they out there with a lot of their peers that they went up down the
Right.
roads with, and just get to tell their story briefly, and why people that rode up and down the road with you and wrestled with you, blood, sweat, and tears out there acknowledging the fact that
Right.
WWE is acknowledging that you're a Hall of Famer. So I
Yeah.
always
It's like
dig it. Will always dig it.
you getting your gold jacket,
Absolutely.
and
And which is
like you
for
said,
them is that ring. They get a ring.
right. Right. But why I referred to that is because WWE is top tier, and
Absolutely.
so to be in that Hall of Fame, it's saying something. Like you said, it's the only one that's publicized where everybody can see, and they put a big deal into it. So I think we've got 3 for right now. I don't know if they've introduced the tag team yet, but you got Michelle McCool, Triple H, and Lex Luger. And I might be
Right.
missing if they already said a tag team or not.
Yeah, and like I said, they haven't announced a tag team yet. But
Right.
like I said, that's the rumor, and they just signed that Legends deal. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, shout out to the total package, man. Very much a
Absolutely.
WCW guy, was in WWF, like you said, with the Lex Express, and I mean he was a narcissist and stuff like that. But I mean, they really, they tried to push him. They tried to push him, but it's more to it than that. You got to give a lot to take that push up there. It's a lot different than, it's like when you see them, you remember when Roman won his world title and Charlotte won hers at WrestleMania. What WrestleMania was that?
32.
Yeah, when they were leaving, and it was like, now the work really begins because they got to do all the, they had to go straight to Good Morning America and all that stuff the very next day, and
Right.
just that's when they really take on that. Like it ain't no joke being a world champion.
I think it's one of those where everybody want to be acknowledged as the world champion because it acknowledging that you're the best. Technically, we know that it's still a work, right? But
Right,
the company's putting their rocket on you,
right,
forever how long they decide to keep you as champion. But to your point, everybody cannot handle that. Like there's
right,
plenty of people that probably from our past could have been world champions, and we as fans like, well, why Kurt Hennig wasn't world champion or
right,
whatever. And I'm not saying Kurt Hennig couldn't have made the media appearances. But what I'm saying is maybe he didn't want to be the world champion. I know
right.
that was the Hogan era too. Don't get me started with that. But still, it's like certain people probably
Excuse me.
couldn't handle it because of prime example, Eddie Guerrero. You hear
Mhm.
him talk about he kind of like it was a lot of pressure. He didn't like you hear his words back then, God rest in peace, rest his soul, but he'll say that he really didn't like doing all the media appearances and being away from the family. All they already had a hectic schedule, but when you're the
Right.
world champion, it's a little more. You taking more flights. Like Cody
Yeah.
is grinding.
Right.
So
I think when you talk about Eddie Guerrero, Eddie was, of course, that that they say if you don't want to be the world champion, then what are you doing in the business? But
that's why I say they want to be acknowledged as the world champion.
right, but I think especially with Eddie back then when he did finally get that world title run, that was after all his little stint when he got fired for the drugs and stuff.
Right, right.
I think it was, that, and he had already, started building his faith up a little bit. It would probably be harder for him to be away from his family like that. You kind of get what I'm saying, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so it might have been a different time for him,
Right.
So, but man, talk about somebody that that the wrestling world has really missed and had some more good years left in him.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
all those stories you hear about him at the end, about the always, reading scripture with the guys and stuff like that. And it just, that should rest your soul to know that he's exactly where he's supposed to be. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And we don't talk politics and we ain't gonna talk religion, but just to throw that out there,
Absolutely.
So but yeah, man, we'll definitely miss Eddie Guerrero, man. But anyway, hey man, let's jump into our favorite wrestling managers.
All
And
right, brother.
we say our favorites, but we have a billion favorites, different eras and stuff. But I won't say favorites, it's the ones that we thought were good or relevant. It's gonna be, pretty much the 80s and the 90s because that title and that phrase kind of phased itself out a little bit,
Right.
in the 2000s, and it's really just almost doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
Even with the stuff that Paul Heyman does, he calls himself an advocate or the wise man. He's not nobody's manager.
Right.
So I will start it off, and then we'll go till we get tired and can't go no more, or we figured we covered all the ones we wanted to cover. So, but
Let's do it.
I'm gonna throw out one real unique because you've got a lot of guys that were referees and different stuff and became managers. This guy was a manager who became a worker, who became a Hall of Famer. And I'm just going to start it off with DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. And started off in AWA with used to manage Bad Company. and managed one of my favorite tag teams, the Freebirds, in WCW. Managed Scott Hall, the Diamond Stud, and he was he was, before he started wrestling, like dude he was an innovator even back then, wearing all the diamonds and the jewelry, and had the different girls, and would have the when he was with WCW and with the Freebirds and stuff, he'd wear that microphone while he could talk while they were doing their entrance and stuff.
Right.
Dude, hey man, you can't take nothing away from DDP, man.
Good God.
God. But yeah, he was the CEO of the Diamond Exchange. Yeah, that's what he used to call himself. So, but yeah, man, I first of all, I love the Freebirds anyway. I love all versions of the Freebirds, even with Brad Armstrong was Bad Street on there. I love all versions, so, but yeah, I like, because they had Sir Oliver Humperdinck as the road manager. And what was it? And what was his name when he was with them? Big Big Daddy Dink or something crazy.
I think it would be Daddy Dink.
Yeah. But it was Sir Oliver Humperdinck though. But but I think he was the roadie, Big Daddy Dink. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm gonna start it off with DDP. So
Big Daddy
that's
Dink.
a little background for your boy on DDP.
Hey, we might as well roll into that the DDP thing is cool. Like you said, you got to think he was a manager, but he became a worker. A lot of times it was the other way around.
Right.
Like there's guys that we'll name on our list that they was workers, then they transitioned to being a manager, as they got up there in age. So DDP, shout out to DDP for being a few that kind of did it the other way.
Right.
Yeah. But all right. Well, I'm gonna go with Paul Ellering.
Okay.
Road Warriors manager. Of course, he's one of those guys that was a worker, became a manager. Now he didn't have like a big stable. It was basically just hawk animal. Now, when they first got started, however, I think it was Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They had a whole squad called the Legion of Doom, and it was the Road Warriors, Jake the Snake Roberts, Paul Ellering. I can't remember who the other members were. I think they had either one or two more wrestlers back then. However, they started out as the Legion of Doom. It was like a team. And then, of course, they eventually broke off, and it was just the Road Warriors with Paul Ellering. And but they said when they talk about managers, right? But
they still carry
when
that
they talk about
name,
managers, right? But when they talk about managers, they said Paul Ellering was like really like a manager, like he wasn't
they used
just
to book
on
their
screen.
flights and
He booked their like he was really like managing them on the road and everything, So and I think he wasn't. There's a few others that probably kind of did that role. I don't know to what extent. It's not like we riding up and down the road with these guys and we listen to podcasts and hear these
Sorry to say
interviews.
that we didn't.
Yeah, right. But that was one thing that stood out with me, Paul Ellering. Also, he had different looks too. He went with the blonde hair, and then he always changed up his, especially early years. When they was kind of like going through the territories of the AWA and NWA and all that kind of
He used
stuff.
to wear that top hat.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of got watered down when they made it to the WWF, when they was just known as the Legion of Doom. They dropped the Road Warrior name. But Paul Ellering though is
he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also, remember he came back with WWE.
Yeah, he just got released about a month ago.
Right.
So, so he's been in the game for a minute. But that's a different type of manager though. Like you say, for one, like he was really managing them, like really taking care of those guys. Like
Absolutely.
you worry about working out and wrestling, I worry about everything else.
Right.
And they could also talk. They didn't really need a manager.
Yeah, that's true. They both good
Because you had
promos.
Hawk. Animal did a lot of yelling, but Hawk would say that crazy off the wall stuff. But right. Oh, what a booger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But especially I used to like when he would carry around that newspaper, Wall Street Journal. It's like, yeah, I'm with these crazy guys, but I'm also this real smart guy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. But I think different of the managers that had only one or two teams or one person that they manage, and for a long period of time. I mean, it really means that it works, and they really did good together,
Right.
So
I agree.
And I'm gonna bring up another manager that was a worker who was also a Hall of Famer, and as far as I know, only managed two people and both world champions, and that's Harley Race.
Hey,
managed after he's 8-time, 7-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Right.
Managed Big Van Vader and Lex Luger. And I mean, like those were some good years. Like you talk about being one of the most hated wrestlers to being one of the most hated managers, because he was also tough and could interfere and like really beat you up, as far as on TV. You know what I'm saying?
He can sell too. Like if he get hit, like the way he look be falling, some of them manager bumps he take on the apron. You know what I mean?
Which are great, especially when they take the hard bump on the apron and fall on the floor.
Right.
Yeah. Or get flipped over into the ring to get flipped right back over out the ring.
Right.
But I really like when he was with Vader because you had a monster of a manager and a monster of a client.
Right. Absolutely.
And then it was a thing like he took Luger up under his wing and made him finally got his world championship run. And, so yeah, man, shout out to Harley.
He was with Luger before he's with Vader.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, right. And especially when he's with Vader, because Vader was my dude.
Yeah.
Back then, so Vader was the reason why I wore them gloves in football. Like straight up.
Yeah, the MMA gloves before anybody.
A whole different sport. I play football, but I got my Vader gloves on.
Right.
But yeah, definitely that's a good one. Cause Harley, like you said, definitely one of the greatest world champions ever.
Right. And was a Hall of Famer without being a manager. Hall of Famer, he could have quit in the 80s and it was a Hall of Famer. So
but the whole manager thing definitely worked for him. It was a good fit, and
absolutely.
and yeah, I dig that, especially as a heel. Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Harley Race.
Great pick by me.
All right, I'm gonna go with a very popular one.
All right.
Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
Okay.
Now, Jimmy has a heck of a background. A lot of people know by now, especially wrestling fans, that he has a music background.
Mm-hmm.
And came up in Memphis, Tennessee. Was a part of Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler's Memphis promotion back in the territory days.
Was a part of the Andy Kaufman storyline.
Andy Kaufman storyline, which is one of the most popular storylines in wrestling
of all
history.
time. Right.
David Letterman show, and it was like 81, 82. I think it was 82 or something.
Yeah. But talk about a storyline that really brought more I mean, it's like bringing Tyson to WrestleMania. It's all about bringing more eyes to your product. And if you do your
Absolutely.
background on
Absolutely.
Kaufman, he loved wrestling. He loved the wrestling business. You know.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So then of course Jimmy, he got hired by WWE around what 85, when
Mhm.
they had that explosion, with the cable TV and the rock and wrestling era. And Jimmy was definitely a heel manager, and he was one of those managers that managed half the heels.
Well,
Tag team, had Heart Foundation,
let's
uh, you know,
let's
uh,
talk about that for 1 second, real quick, because
uh,
that was the difference between your managers and USWA, and you have some of these managers that had a stable, but
right,
in WWE, WWF at the time, a lot of the guys had the same managers, but you would never see them guys together.
right. Unless it
You know
was
what I'm saying?
Survivor Series or something.
Right,
Yeah,
right, or something. The Royal Rumble, they might help. They might mention, oh, they're part of the Heenan family. They're helping each other out.
right,
But
right,
like you take Skandar Atbar and Devastation Incorporated, they would all come out there together. You know,
right,
and
right,
keep them together. Yeah. So I thought that was, like the WWE, they were all the managers were always like that,
right.
or the majority of
See,
them.
Jimmy Hart, he'll come out with a different jacket,
Right.
he might have a
For the
different
Heart Foundation.
megaphone. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
also we talk about putting in work. I know we were talking about on screen, but just like we mentioned, Paul Ellering did behind the scenes, like really was their manager. Well, Jimmy Hart was responsible for damn near all of the theme music. Uh, them superstars were coming to the ring, and he was like
Right.
really writing them songs and
And,
recording
and
them songs.
right. And you can hear one to this day every time HBK is involved in something.
Right.
That was all him. Yeah, man. But talk about like he managed the Honky Tonk Man, the Heart Foundation, um,
Dano Bravo, the
Earthquake.
Earthquake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hogan.
Nasty, nasty boys.
Yeah. He didn't start representing Hogan until he got over there in WCW.
Right. That was the later
Right.
years. Right.
Yeah. But then he was also part of the Dungeon of Doom.
Right.
Had some stuff with them, you know what I mean? So he's had a roster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And runs Hogan's Beat Shop down there in Orlando now.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a good one. Well, let's stick with that. Let's talk about Reverend Slick. We'll stick with WWE for a minute and talk about Slick.
All right. Well, he
Um, Go ahead,
he turned a one man gang black. The
bro.
African dream.
Akeem, the African Dream, was the one man gang who had skulls tattooed on the side of both the sides of his head with a mohawk, that wore chains and blue jean jacket with the sleeves cut off. And then he gets with Slick, and the next thing you know, he's wearing a dashiki and a hat, and is Akeem, the African Tree. So I wish we had a picture to pull up right now, but anybody that's even listening and you don't know who Akeem, the African Dream is, I want you to look up One Man Gang and then look up Akeem, the African Dream, and they're both the same person. But he managed the Big Boss Man.
Right. The
Shy,
natural Bush Reed.
yeah, straight. Hey, shout out to the RIP Big Boss Man out of Cobb County, Georgia.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, Butch Reed.
Rest in peace,
Um,
Bush Reed.
yeah, man. So,
Earthquake.
but,
Well,
yeah,
that was from
yeah,
Jimmy Hart,
yeah.
but
Still,
yeah, Slick. Yeah, I saw him do actually I saw him on a podcast maybe probably about a year ago. And it was
mm,
cool to hear him tell his story, how he came up, how he ended up getting in the wrestling business.
yeah,
It was it was pretty cool. Also, when they were just talking about him and the one man gang, or Akeem, I forgot the gentleman's real name, but they're still good friends.
Yeah.
And it was cool to hear them talk on the podcast. You know, they both telling their stories, and they said that they really didn't hang out much. Far as like they was cool, but they stayed in the hotel. They said that Boss Man was their partner on screen, but they didn't really hang out like that.
Yeah.
You know, on the road. They said Boss Man lived a totally different lifestyle than they
Yeah.
did, but they hit it off. They hit it off though. Them two, Slick and the one man gang, because they both was not really out there. You know, they went they
Getting
kept it
crazy and
basic. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
and going out
I
there
just thought
and
that was cool.
enjoying each and every moment of life right after.
Right, right.
Right. But I will tell you this. You talk about, he was real, skinny back then. I've seen him maybe about, that's probably, dang, that's crazy to even say, about 15 years ago. Was that 2009? It's about 16 now. So, but I saw him at a fan fest, and dude, he's like 6'4", 6'5".
Slick.
Yeah, he's a big
Yeah, I
dude.
know.
Yeah,
Right.
because I was like, you know, he had about 3 or 4 on me,
Okay.
about 3 or 4 inches on me. So yeah, he's a big dude. Yeah,
Yeah, I did. I dug Slick.
yeah. And he had the rap song. He did the rap. You remember the entrance music
Yeah,
he had when he come
style.
out there by himself?
I forgot that saying. Something bro, style so bro.
Yeah,
I watched that video on Instagram about 3 months ago, bro. I meant to
yeah. I
upload the
seen it
video.
was going around for a minute.
Yeah, yeah, I was tripping. I was tripping out that. I also saw a clip of them on our Arsenio Hall show
Yeah,
when he
when
was.
he was tripping about Arsenio was talking about soul.
Yeah,
He's from Africa, huh?
yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
All right, what you got, bro?
All right, I'm gonna go with the games master, Kevin Sullivan. And that's
Ooh,
another one of those we mentioned that start out as a wrestler and end up becoming a manager. But he did double duty though, because he was still
that's what I was about
working.
to say. He was like Pete Rose.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. Bill
he was
Russell,
managing, but he could
you
still get in there
know,
and compete.
right. Plus and you know he was Dungeon Doom. He was Varsity Club. I really liked him with Varsity Club because I was all about the Varsity Club.
Yeah,
I just thought it was cool, the whole wrestling gimmick and Rotunda wearing the Syracuse singlet.
yeah.
You know, then of
Steiner
course
had
they
the
had Rick.
Michigan.
Yeah, and then Dr. Death had the Oklahoma.
Mhm.
You know, the Spider he just wore the Georgia jacket. You know, he didn't wear the singlet. He just
He
had the
didn't wear
black
the
drawers
singlet.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Dangerous Dan.
you know, then of course Southern did the Dungeon and Doom stuff, but he was always, you know, even back in his heyday,
The Florida
uh,
days.
yeah, the Ultimate Heel. You know, when he had that
Yeah,
the dark whatever they was called back then.
right.
You know, they kind of satanic. You know, it was they was on some
Yeah,
other stuff. You know, especially back then. I'm pretty sure that was really like wow,
yeah.
probably
I
super
remember
duper
get.
heels.
Yeah, I remember getting in trouble at church because we were at church and all the lights went out, and
Right.
my mom was doing something, all the lights went. I was like, oh, they're gonna have a Prince of Darkness death match. And I was like 7 or 8. She was like, you can't say that in here, you know what I'm saying? But I remember, they had the Prince of Darkness death match when they had the things over their faces where they couldn't see.
Right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember that was with Jimmy Garvin, I think, when they were having that whole thing again with his wife, Precious.
Right. Precious.
Yeah, yeah. We used to call her Squeeze.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was his real life wife then.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, that dude could fly airplanes too. Shout out Jimmy
right.
Garvin.
Hey
Yeah.
man, absolutely. We shot out the Freebirds all day long. Heck yeah. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
It's my turn. All right, man. We're gonna go. Well, hey, let's just talk about it. Jim Cornette.
Yes,
Jim Cornette.
sir.
I'm gonna give you the breakdown of, of course he's most known for the Midnight Express. Most
Right.
known for both crap. Both ones. The one with Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton, and Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton.
But you know
R.I.P.
that
Bobby Eaton.
that wasn't the original though, right? Even the one with Condry and Bobby Eaton wasn't the original. Of course, they came back and did a storyline with Paul
Right.
Heyman, of course.
Yeah.
But
It
there
was
was another
Randy
version
Rose.
before that. They had
Yeah.
I forgot that black dude name. But they it was like 3 or 4 of them that was
Yeah.
called the Midnight Express. And then of course, just like anything else, just almost like what we mentioned earlier with the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, how they had multiple members and they just kind of
Yeah.
split off and did their own thing.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
anyway, Jim Cornette. So we got both versions of the Midnight Express. He had a short little stint with the Dynamic Dudes, mainly a heel guy a heel manager for the most part. If you take his career, it's 90% heel and 10% face.
right.
Them little face turns they didn't last long.
Right.
And when I think Cornette falling off the scaffold, blowing both knees out.
Starcade 86.
Yeah, always talking about his mom funding everything for him. Just dude was a genius, dog. Bobby Eaton wasn't gonna say nothing. Stan Lane was gonna do the dancing and look cool. They didn't have to say a word. All they had to do was whoop who was ever in the ring, and Cornette would say everything needed to be said and then some.
Absolutely. Plus, he had the
Cornette,
tennis racket, the
right,
greatest manager weapon ever.
right. Way better than
Tennis
the cell
racket,
phone, better than the cane,
megaphone, whatever.
Right, right. So, and just thinking of the feuds the Midnight Express had with the Rock and Roll Express and the Horsemen, the original Midnight Express with Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose, with Paul Lee Dangerously, the matches that Dangerously and Cornette had against each other.
Right.
A lot of that stuff. Of course, then he managed the Heavenly Bodies.
Right.
with Stan Lane and Dr. Tom Pritchard. No, it was
James
Jimmy
Del
Jimmy
Rey.
Del Rey. Jimmy Del
Jimmy
Rey.
Del Rey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
Stan Lane after that. But it was Jimmy Del Rey and Dr. Tom Pritchard. He's be doing that hair with his hair like that. But pretty much ran Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Ohio Valley Wrestling. ROH, had some stints in TNA, had some stints in WWE, tried to bring the NWA back in WWE at that one point in time when he was managing Jeff Jarrett, Rock and Roll Express, and Barry Windham, which didn't last long.
Did he have Dan? I know Dan Severn was part of the package, but did he manage him too, or Severn was on his own?
I don't want to sit here and get caught lying. We have to look that up. I definitely like to know that. But I remember him bringing Severn in there.
Right.
But I don't know if we had to check that one out. But that's when Dan Severn had the NWA championship.
Right.
Yeah, he had the NWA title, but it had the bare knuckle title and all that stuff.
He also was a part of Yokozuna and
Owen
Hart, Bulldog,
yeah.
that whole little fact. Because remember he running around with Fuji at the same time. It was
like
they had like a joint venture.
Right. Yeah. So way longevity in business, got a great podcast now. is still not scared to say whatever comes to his mind about the wrestling business. And is not afraid. He is not afraid. I got to see him live one time, and I mean to tell you, dude, that his out of all that stuff, and you talk about a Q&A with Harley and Ric Flair about the Starrcade '83 Flair for the gold. That's all they talked about was that match, and you got both of them there answering questions. You had wrestling matches, and the most entertaining was Jim Cornette. You know, and I mean, he would, you know, I remember seeing him cussing out ICP, Insane Clown Posse, cussing them out to their face at one of them Legend Fan Fest. And talk about, you know, back in the 80s with run-ins with the fans, he done been stabbed and all kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, it was real back then, you know.
And the cool thing is he's really involved in that dark side of the ring. And when they show all the stuff that he has and his collector stuff and just the, you know, what a wrestling historian he is. You know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be, is said to be maybe the mastermind behind the screw job, Montreal screw job. Let him tell it and let Vince Russo take credit for it too. So, but yeah, we're gonna have to break down and talk about the screw job in depth one day, and we will. You know, I
share
know
our opinions on that.
I know everybody has talked about it, but we're gonna take our turn. Might as well. We're gonna take our turn too.
Right.
But yeah, man. So like Jim Cornette, you talk about the Hall of Fame, and it's a shame that they're not in there. And it is a shame. You talk about people that are in there that maybe, you know, and of course, you know, not to be funny, but the Coco Bewares are the first thing to come to your mind. You know, how in the world are the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette not in the Hall of Fame? If it's Sting was in there, so it can't be all about your WWE days.
Right.
You know, because he didn't have any. He had one small run.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, and got injured. But you got Muta. Muta was never in WWE.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And but still well deserved.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah. So it's just when you think about certain tag teams, and you know, I don't think the Rock and Roll Express would have had any problem at all sharing the spotlight with Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. I don't think they would have had a problem with it at all.
They got over together. Like
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And I don't see why they weren't inducted in either the same night or inducted together.
I agree.
You know? And then now, you know, Bobby Eaton's gone. So, you know, it's all about trying to get these guys the flowers that deserve it while they're still here.
Absolutely.
Instead of talking about them later after they're dead. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Because, and if you really want to think about it, you talk about, well, you got Lex Luger and the Midnight Express. You know what I'm saying? Jim Cornette. You know what I'm saying? Like they're putting Luger in now. Maybe Luger should have been in there a while ago because, like you say, he is Grand Slam champion, multi-world champion, multi-time. Bro, he carried that U.S. title in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
Before he started getting the world title. He was you know, so I kind of want to take that statement back after hearing myself say it. Because after thinking about it, like there's no doubt in my mind he deserves to be in there. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but there ain't a doubt in my mind that the Midnight Express don't deserve to be in there. And Jim Cornette.
Definitely on the same page. I mean, Cornette might be my favorite manager besides the one I'm going to say next.
All right.
My number one, and this is not no ranking or nothing. It's not no particular order. It's off the dome. But my number one manager is Bobby the Brain Heenan. And I tell you what, bro, you mentioned the stables and all that earlier.
Yeah.
Of course, now his guys, it was the same way where he managed multiple wrestlers on the roster, heel wrestlers, for
Mm.
of course Survivor Series or that type situation. Andre was with the Brainbusters and Haku and stuff like that. Ravishing Rick Rude. He played an amazing role in that feud with the Warrior.
Right.
Main reason why WrestleMania 5 at the Trump Plaza,
When he held
Warrior
his
lost
leg
it,
down.
held his leg down, and
Yeah.
of course
Yeah.
Warrior chasing him back up the steps was an awesome visual because it was like he's like really like this dude's chasing me,
Right.
up these steps. But he wearing the weasel, wearing the weasel jumpsuit, and he had a long run in WWE, but then he had a real long run in AWA,
Right.
managing Nick
And
Botwinkle and Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens. Uh, and they going against the Crusher and Bruiser and uh,
right.
you
But
know,
listen to all the names you just said that he managed.
right,
So
right,
just saying those names right there, you got to put him. If you were gonna do a what you call it, Mount Rushmore managers, he should be the first one to go on there. Then
that's my call, bro.
you just said Nick Bockwinkel, Pat Patterson,
Ray Stevens,
Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, Kurt Hennig, Haku, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard.
Ravishing Rick Rude,
Dude, that's the meanest stable that's the meanest roster anybody's ever seen.
right.
If you
Paul
had
Orndorff,
fantasy wrestling and that was your team right there, you dominating.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
But you gotta think like pivotal moments like the Andre heel turn when they was in Piper's Pit.
Right,
And when he walked in with Andre, first thing Hogan said, "What are you doing with him?" You know what I mean?
right.
Why are you with this man? Why that guy?
He said, I'll tell you why. And he couldn't stand Hogan.
Right.
And
But just
almost
like
ruined the surprise of the NWO.
what he say? What is he doing?
But whose side is he on?
Right. Then when he turned, like I told you.
Right. So let's stick on Heenan for a minute because you talking about prime time with Gorilla Monsoon.
Right. Absolutely.
Did that every week. Also did commentating. Also managing. And then comes the WCW and is one of the best announcers there is.
Commentator.
Best commentator
Yeah.
there is.
Great.
You know, great color commentator. You got when Shivani even Bischoff was good.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
Bischoff was a little square about it. You know what I mean? But he wasn't
Right.
bad.
Right.
You know, Shivani always fit in good over there in WC. Shivani was good in WWE too. He's
He
good
could
in
work with
everything. He's good
anybody.
now.
He
Yeah.
Yeah, Schiavone can adapt to that was what made him so good because he was able to. What if it was JR who was at times, over the top and just full of information,
Yeah.
and or he just Schiavone just kind of fit. It could be Mike Tenay,
Right.
you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
with Crockett, David Crockett, or
Mhm.
whatever. He just kind of like to fit in. Like he was doing sports talk radio. I know
Right.
we talk Bobby Heenan, but then we talk about Shivani though. But he was doing sports talk radio in Atlanta for a while, and it's cool to hear
Yeah.
his
And
voice
then
and
he was
things out of
doing
wrestling.
announcing for a baseball team too. Doing
Right,
some baseball announcing. So yeah. But
right,
yeah, man. But when he came to WCW and ended his career over there, like, of course he's a Hall of Famer. And
Right.
but just what a great commentator he was. And then when the
Well,
NWO would come out, he'd always try to say, "See ya," take off running.
right.
You know, just always funny and said some of the funniest stuff.
Right. Him and Monsoon was really hilarious.
Oh,
Like,
bro, you know, the skits that
yeah.
they would do when he couldn't get in the building, or he had to dress
Right.
up like a woman one time trying to get in the building and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
They
was
was
good stuff, man.
right.
That was good stuff.
Rest in peace to Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon.
Absolutely. I remember you know, Nitro when Monsoon had died, and just seeing Bobby all tore up, and you know, said the pearly gates were now going to be known as the gorilla position. You
Right.
know, yeah, man. So you know they were super close. So, well, you talk about somebody with a big roster. I got somebody that's gonna be close to matching that, and
Okay.
that's Paulie Dangerously / Paul Heyman. Now, you you kind of remembering at the beginning and they managed some of the same people, just at different times. You know, different company. So when he had the original Midnight Express and him and Jim Cornette were going at it, you know, and then he formed the Dangerous Alliance. You talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, you're stunning Steve Austin, but it's still Steve Austin. Steve Austin, Larry Zbyszko, Bobby Eaton, Rick Rude, Double A. Okay. Then you go to ECW, Superfly Snooker, Sabu. You know, of course, he was running the place, but he had managed a lot of those guys.
Right.
And then you CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Like you talk about a mean list, mean roster.
Even Cesaro.
Right, right. Absolutely. And of course he was the mastermind behind ECW. It'll probably go down as one of the best Hall of Fame speeches of all time. And I mean,
You know
didn't
what? Well, Paulie, his contribution to the wrestling business, if it's on screen, off screen, you hear the stories, the ECW stories, and the mismanaging the money and all that kind of stuff.
right, not getting
You hear those
paid.
stories. Yeah, you hear those stories, but we're not here to talk about that.
Right,
We're here to talk about his contribution. Like, dude is a genius and one of the best talkers, especially as a manager, just as an on-screen talent.
right,
One of the best talkers in the wrestling business, and that's saying a lot because you got a lot of great talkers: Ric
right,
Flair, Dusty Rhodes, The Rock. It's countless of others that can go on that list. But I'm just pointing out ones that everybody will agree that are great talkers. Well, Paul Heyman is on the Rushmore of talking.
right.
That's saying a lot, bro. But the
Yeah,
dude,
absolutely. Absolutely. And to this day is still just here, and everybody else is here. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that he does with Roman Reigns and the
right?
promos, man.
His facial
So
expressions,
right. And I forgot one. Samoan SWAT team.
right?
Yeah.
Which came full circle with the whole Roman Reigns thing.
Right,
That's how it
right.
came full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, man, like I say, he was the first one to have one of the talk shows. You know, what was it called? The Danger Zone.
Danger Zone.
Remember, he had the Danger Zone on WCW.
And he also was a great announcer. He was good
Right.
at that,
Yeah.
and he spent time in WCW and WWF, the WWE, being an announcer.
Right. Him and JR used to work together. So
Right,
on both sides, on both
both
companies.
companies.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. 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 That's man. And notice you want to think about managers as such a like it's crazy because they're so outdated now. And you've got like Paul Heyman and not much else to talk about if you talk about managers right now. But
right.
all of these guys are in.
I'll give one a shout out though. Not trying to do a deep dive in this one because I don't consider him to be on this list, but somebody who I do like who doing their thing right now is MVP.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. Because he's not in the ring and he's accompanying the
Right,
guys out there, but it's almost they're still just a clique. You know what I mean?
right,
But he's still
right.
kind of playing that manager role.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Hey man, we're gonna talk about MVP. Like nobody thought his career would go like that and been in such longevity and
Right,
where he came from. Yeah, man, dude's been on it. And they're doing their
absolutely.
thing over there at AEW now. Yeah, man.
The Hurt Syndicate.
Right. And that's a faction with three different names and three different companies.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right,
In
right,
TNA, WWE, now AEW.
right. Another shout out to a current manager in AEW's Don Callis.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
with he kind of doing this thing with the Don Callis family, and
right,
going after Osprey, and he feuded with all those Canadian guys,
right.
Jericho, and
Because he's
so
Canadian. Or
right,
he was up there, yeah.
right, right,
But he's been doing this thing for a long time too, since the 90s. Was
yeah,
on WWE,
absolutely,
ECW.
absolutely,
Yes, he's been, and then of course, doing the announcing over there at New Japan. He did that
right,
for a while. Yeah, shoot, he's the one that brokered that Omega Jericho match.
right.
Yeah, talk about a gift for the wrestling business.
Yeah, one of
That match right
Dave
there.
8-star matches,
But that
or
match
was it
was,
9 star?
man, crazy. Let's do a couple of more and
All
then
right,
call it a night.
all right. JJ Dillon,
Yeah, can't forget JJ.
and he definitely big part of our favorite faction.
Right. Also started out as a worker.
Started as a worker from up north. Uh,
Right.
well, I think he's from Carolina, but he was from up north. He said he grew up watching WWF, Bruno
Right.
San Martino, and all that stuff. So, and he kind of migrated, working through the territories of his wrestling days. Then, of course, eventually became a manager. I guess when he was with Jim Crockett, right?
Right.
And now with the Horseman situation, he was already managing Tully,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then,
And
of course,
Totally Blanchard Enterprises.
right, right. I remember he also did some work in World Class because I remember him having a feud where he was always seeing this footage where he was like in the like the town car, and they was on like the Von Erich Ranch, and I think David rolled up on him on a horse, but it
Mhm.
was JJ in the town car. Uh, I just always remember that footage. I just thought it was cool how David came up in the horse, David Von Erich, and
Right.
I just think of JJ with that. But he been around, like you say, he been around. But he definitely was great when he's with the Horsemen. It just fit. It just fit with the whole gimmick. The out partying and the women in the limousine
Right.
and the limousines. And JJ was just cool. He was just like,
Be chewing on them, had
do
them
little
glasses
slick
in his
stuff,
mouth. Yeah.
had them glasses. Uh, what he say about Lex Luger? He won't be there.
He won't be there. I told you he wouldn't be there.
Also, we talk about guys who we mentioned Bobby Heenan was the commentating, or um, others, Paul Ellering booking the stuff for the Road Warriors when they was on the road. Other managers had different duties with the company, but JJ ended up being front office for WWE.
Uh,
That was kind of like when he stopped managing on screen. So guy definitely very knowledgeable in the wrestling business, especially being on both sides of it, working, managing, had long history of many different territories because that's what they did back then. So he
yeah,
definitely very instrumental and played his part in the wrestling business.
absolutely. Theodore R. Long. If you go back to go to Peacock and look at those old, you talking about 84, 85 NWA shows, you'll see Teddy Long carrying the jackets to the back. About a year later, you'll see him refereeing. And we get to the late 80s, early 90s, he's managing Doom, start off managing the Skyscrapers, Sid Vicious, and Dangerous Dan Spivey. And then when Sid left, go to WWE, was Mean Mark Callis, who was
Hmm.
Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker. And, then he had Doom, Ron Simmons, Butch Reed. And man, we used to wear that leather do rag.
Yeah.
And the dude, hey man, you talking about coming a long way and working your way up. Like this man ended up going to WWE being a referee, and then end up being the general manager of SmackDown. You're gonna go one-on-one with the
Undertaker.
So just for that simple fact of the way he came out, we can't not mention Teddy Long when we doing our
Absolutely,
management list.
bro.
Yeah, I
You
enjoyed him,
know,
especially with the Skyscrapers, with Doom, and I know his roster wasn't big, but
right.
just the journey he's had in the wrestling business is remarkable.
You talk about these gentlemen contributions to the wrestling business. Like we talked
Yeah,
about Bobby Heenan, and we talked about J.J. Dillon and Paul Ellering. Even though it's not the same, but they was just more than on-screen characters.
right.
But Teddy Long to me is, I hate to get racial, but when you talk about contributions to a black man in the wrestling business, especially in the time where he came up, when there wasn't really many black wrestlers, even though he wasn't a wrestler, but
Right.
they didn't get a lot of shine. It was few, like there was a Tony Atlas who had the body,
Right.
still wasn't world champion, but you had a Tony
World Tag
Atlas,
Team Champion. Yeah.
right? You had Pistol Pez Wiley,
Hmm.
SD Jones, and
Yeah.
but the one that was way before our time, uh, Bobo Brazil was
Ernie
big
Ladd.
time.
Yeah.
Ernie Ladd, and there was quite a few more in between,
Right.
but it was a little before our time. However, Teddy Long, for what period he came in the wrestling business, like I said, he started out with the rain jackets. He started out, and you hear him tell his story. It was always like circumstance that why he got into the next position. You know, it was
Right.
like right place, right
Somebody
time.
wasn't here. Somebody didn't do this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And, and for him to make it to the WWE and to have the general manager on screen roles and him in his dance and
Right.
his whole demeanor and
What's up,
everybody
player?
love and everybody love his lingo and everything. Uh
Right.
Definitely shout out Teddy Long, man. You are a great person in the business. You represent well. Have a lot of respect for you. Went to an indie show last week, different one. He was a special guest there. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I was gonna
he's
get you
still
at the end of
involved.
I was gonna get you at the end of the show to shout them out and just give us a quick rundown of what you saw and how you like. We'll do that at the end. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
would.
But
Yeah.
Teddy Long, that's a
Yeah.
great person to add to this list.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. Hey, let's wrap it up. Let's do one more piece. I'll let you go first.
All right. Gonna go with Gary Hart
Oh,
and talking about a mastermind, very calculated, uh, great promo because almost sort of like a Jake Roberts type style where
yeah,
he don't have to scream and yell. He'll just tell you straight how it is and real ice cold about it. And
right,
very calculating, very cerebral, like very
right,
smart. When he talks, you listen because you trying to
right.
figure out what he about to say. You
And
know,
and you weren't really scared of managers, but Gary Hart was rather intimidating back then.
absolutely,
Yeah, he was
absolutely,
a bad dude.
and he been around for a long time before our time.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but he managed one of my favorite wrestlers ever in a time period when I was really knee deep in. It's 1989. He was in a major feud, the Great Muta
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
major feud with the Stinger, and I was a Stinger, and that was loved both wrestlers, but Gary Hart was the mouthpiece for Muta. He also had Kabuki, same gimmick, pretty much same gimmick. Kabuki did it before
right.
Kaiji Muto became Great Muta. But
Yeah,
Gary Hart, Terry Funk in that run in '89.
yeah. Buzz
He,
Sawyer.
he was Buzz Sawyer, Dogs Can Fly. But he also had a great run in World Class Championship Wrestling with several. We had a little stable down there. So
Yeah.
Gary Hart definitely
Al Perez. Yeah,
Al Perez,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, man. Um, I I remember getting one of those. Do you remember we was watching wrestling DVDs that we would catch, and it'd be some. It wouldn't be WWE, it'd be somebody else, and we had the. Remember we watched that I can't remember which one it was, but he was talking about Ric Flair and Gary Hart was all through that thing. His storytelling was so good, even on the video. It was breaking down stuff and on those you really learn, who somebody is. You knew what they are on
Right.
screen, but now you're getting to see the real person. And I remember him saying, like,
Hmm.
I remember Ric Flair made $30,000 just that weekend. And he was the world
Right.
champion and deserved every penny. You know what I mean? Like, I really enjoyed his work, especially now. Back then, like I say, he was intimidating. Of course, he was a heel. We were younger back then, but yeah, he definitely deserves to be on this list.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna shut it down with my favorite manager of all time, and I'm gonna give you a little background. All right.
Mhm.
He's the manager of champion. He's the manager that calls it right down the middle. He might
Daddy.
he might be the most annoying manager with his whistle. And I mean to tell you, first of
Oh
all,
my God.
started out as a referee and has a Hall of Fame
Absolutely.
career as a referee.
Right.
First
It's
match
huge
ever.
matches.
First match ever is the Sheik and Terry Funk. First match.
Wow.
And you talking about some historical matches, all kind of stuff in Japan. Bruce Brody and Lex Luger. When
In
Lex
that
Luger just
cage.
ran out, just hopped the cage and jumped out. WrestleMania, Giant Gonzalez and The Undertaker. And of course he was like Giant Gonzalez's agent, his handler. So that's why he was there. But we're gonna talk about
Hey,
William. Go ahead.
did he do Nate and Tatsumi Fujinami in that
Yes,
Japan Super Show?
yes, yes, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. He's got a Hall of Fame career as a referee already. So we're gonna talk about William Bill Alfonso Fonzie, my favorite manager of all time.
Right
And
down the middle, Daddy.
right down the middle, Daddy. But didn't become a manager until around about 95, 96, and when he came to ECW. And he was
Right.
the man, the referee that called it right down the middle. And of course they hated that in ECW. So he was like a heel referee. And they started letting him do stuff. And that's when he started. He had that little feud with Todd Gordon, who was the
Right.
owner at the time. And then he started managing Taz. And then went
Right.
from Taz to RVD and Sabu. And bro, I just remember at 2:00 in the morning on Saturday morning, Sunday morning, watching ECW or watching it while I recorded it, just getting back to the house, from being out that night. And watching him and Sabu and RVD and Sabu were arguing with each other and pushing each other and like fighting for the spotlight type thing. And Sabu don't talk. RVD just talks about himself. And then that's when
Right.
Fonzie came in to tell him how great they both were. And dude,
Right.
he was just he's a little dude. So he was just always all over the place. When he'd be jumping on the rope and just going crazy, blowing the whistle, taking their belts off for him. It was so entertaining, so entertaining. And like I said, he's refereed at WrestleMania. He's had a major career. Got to come back with RVD when they did the one night stand when RVD was hurt. Came
Right.
back with him, and then at TNA. And if you remember, on my birthday, we got the TNA pay-per-view when they all the
Right.
ECW guys came back, and he actually came out with Sabu and RVD
I remember
when
that.
because they were the main event. And then he
Right.
was like had both of them water and telling them both what to do and stuff, and it now is more active now than he's been in years. So I mean, dude is busy. And he's been working up there MLW with that what's that dude's name? Big dude, Matthew Justice. And doing stuff with him and just doing other stuff, man. And personally, one of the coolest dudes, especially in the wrestling business I ever met. Got to meet him at a wrestling NWA Legend Fan Fest back in 2009. And we still keep in touch. It's not like we're best buddies, you know what I'm saying? But it's just cool to get to hear from him and stuff. But yeah, after meeting him, absolutely one of my most favorite managers. But even if I didn't, get to meet him. Was always liked him. Always liked his work. Very entertaining. And like I say, the referee career, puts him in the upper echelon by itself anyway. You know what I'm saying? You can
Absolutely.
tell.
Well,
You can tell it was baseball season. Dog, my voice about to be gone in a minute.
right. Well, but with the fine, just like you said, being annoying, the whistle. Man, I thought Jimmy Hart was annoying with the megaphone.
Right.
Rah, 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 get him that, get him whatever. Nah, this dude here with that whistle, bro.
And I mean, bro,
Woo,
was nonstop.
woo. Yeah,
But that was the gimmick, though. You know what I'm saying? He
absolutely,
played it to a T.
absolutely,
Played it to a T. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, shout out Fonzie, man, Bill Alfonso.
Hey, man, shout out to Fonzie. But yeah, man, let's just wrap it up. That's our favorite managers or ones that we thought were great, that we liked, uh, well respected, and ones that when you ask about managers, these are the ones that we wanted to talk about. So it's just our
Right.
opinion. It didn't come from a list or anything like that. So hey, before we get out of here, dog, tell us about the name of the little indie promotion you went to, and just anything that was, caught your eye, or give them a shout out, man.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I feel bad, but I'm gonna keep it real. I don't remember the name of the indie promotion. I'm just being real, and I apologize for that. But I will name a lot of the wrestlers I did meet, and that was cool. First of all, shout out to Derek Showtime, friend of mine from Facebook, wrestling fan. Uh, Dude, been a wrestling fan for years, and been communicating with this gentleman past few months. And he did the ring bell for this particular promotion, and dude really like showed me around, especially at the end, and met the workers, the wrestlers that was a part of this promotion. Uh,
Yeah.
Mentioned Teddy Long earlier. Teddy Long made an appearance at this promotion. He wasn't the
Oh,
owner or
okay.
anything, but he was real cool with the owner.
Yeah.
And then he came and showed his support. So shout out Teddy Long for that. But some of the wrestlers that I met, that really caught my eye. This one guy named Grayson Pierce. He was a heel character, typical. Had the long hair. Um, he medium sized guy, wasn't a real big guy. But
Uh,
I, he did a move, man, that I never seen before, and it was a move I seen as far as him and his opponent. They was fighting outside of the ring. They was on the ring apron though, but they was outside of the rope. They was on the outside part of it, fighting on the ring apron. Buddy did a springboard. From the second rope, he springboard to the turnbuckle and drop kicked him off the turnbuckle. But it was
wow.
so smooth and quick how he did it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I seen the springboard, and there's like, you get the Cody Cutters and and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Cody's not the only one. There's a lot of them that just do the springboard, AJ Styles or whoever. Uh, but I never seen nobody do that one. So shout out Grayson Pierce. Uh, Potential podcast guest one day.
Hey,
Also,
absolutely.
there was a guy that's a veteran that was there at the show. Uh, Jonathan Gresham, former Ring of Honor champion,
Okay.
also the husband of Jordan Grace. Uh,
Yeah.
Dude, real stocky, not a real tall guy, uh, but real put together.
Right.
And man, hard hitting match. Matter of fact, you know the name of the gentleman he faced with
Uh, Alex Kane.
Alex Kane. Yeah,
Yeah.
they squared off. Hard
Yeah.
hitting match. Uh, Very entertaining. Also shout out to Jonathan Grisham, who maybe one day could possibly be another potential guest on the podcast. Um, and there was other gentlemen that I've connected with, probably about 4 or 5 different wrestlers. They had a real cool little set. It was dark, but they had the pyro, not the big pyro, but they had like a little uh sprinkler type setup with the sparkles. The lighting was cool. Um, the ring, they had a real good presentation, man. I was really impressed
Okay.
with this company. And please forgive me for not remembering the name of the promo, because I was just thinking about that, and I feel real bad about that. Especially
Yeah.
we trying to shout out the
Right.
promos. Uh,
We'll
so
get the
my
name
bad.
and shout them out next week.
Yeah, my bad on that one.
Nah,
But
you good. They'll
but
be all right.
they and but it was some hard hitting matches.
Nice.
They had a lot of good stuff going on, man.
That's what's
I,
up.
I love doing these promos. I mean, going to these indie shows though, and also since we're gonna be going to different shows, trying to compare to the other shows. But
Right.
it definitely was a pretty cool setup. I think it was their first
Absolutely.
time at this particular venue though, so I don't know if what their shows normally look like.
Yeah.
They do shows, my understanding, like once every other week type thing.
Okay.
So they
Yeah, we'll definitely have to step back in there. But yeah,
absolutely.
that's gonna be one of our main focuses coming up, is really putting a spotlight on indie promotions in Georgia, man, and give them as much love as we can. And but yeah, man, it's been our episode for today. It's been Welcome to Wrasslin, talking about what managers we thought would go on the greatest manager list, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And but we will be back. We appreciate you guys again. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, any questions, anything you want to have us talk about, or you want to be a guest on the show, hit us up at w2wrasslin@gmail.com. That's W, the number 2, wrasslin@gmail.com. Hey, bro, another one in the books. Another one in the books. It's Welcome to Wrasslin.
Welcome to Wrasslin.
Welcome to Wrasslin, Chetty Bobby. Welcome to Wrasslin with Big E and the POT. Podcast tag champs of the whole world, slamming like a DDT. Got it like just like a figure four. Hulk Hogan, all they do is flex. Talking wrestling while they get the dough. Off the top like a superplex. Think they letting up? Hell no. Dusty Rose with the elbow. From the corner like a stinging splash. Straight to the face, I know you felt those. Hey, y'all crying out for help though. Rising up like a dead man. About to go upside your head like Stone Cold with the bedpan. Bottom line, if you want the facts, welcome to Wrestling's where you need to be. Chetty Bobby, this show improved like John Cena, you ain't seeing me. Bottom line, if you want the facts, welcome to Wrestling's where you need to be. Chetty Bobby, this show improved like John Cena, you ain't seeing me. Yeah.